Hello, and welcome to another Contemplative Living, where we talk about concepts to bring contemplation or contemplative living into everyday life. You know, Spirit once said to me, using heart-centered business models helps humanity and our world to sustain a whole environment. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about right livelihood. All right? And so let's get to it.
Welcome to Contemplative Living, where we view contemplations for the week to have a better understanding of our spiritual paths. This is Contemplative Living with Dave Bennett. Contemplations and reflective meditations.
All right, so we're talking about right livelihood today. And it's sometimes in the Eightfold Path, it's not given a lot of attention because it's kind of considered, kind of a no-brainer. We want to live, we want to create a career and a way of living with doing no harm. So, that, and when we look at our right view and right thoughts and right speech, right livelihood kind of falls in line. So, but it's it's because of today's day and age, it's a lot more complicated when it was laid out by the Buddha years ago. That was a simpler time, and today things are much more interconnected in everything that we do. So let's just go into it a little bit. We want to bring your spiritual practice into work by intention and emphasize the choices and changes you can make. So if we're in a heart-centered place, if we're trying to live, by being connected to our heart center, to our higher consciousness. And hi, Jenna, glad to see you here. Happy Sunday. Then we want to kind of bring that into all aspects of our life. So we want to bring that into our work. Not that we're going to prophesize or anything like that, but that we're going to live by what we are doing in our spiritual practice. So we bring that intention into our workplace so that we make choices that are in alignment with our spiritual being. That way we have less discord while we're at work. And it's hard sometimes, but this is an approach that I found very rewarding in my workplace. Think of right livelihood as a conscious livelihood, which means no harm or minimum harm. So we want to keep that center with us in our workplace. We want to be conscious. We want to be awake. We want to be aware while we're doing our work. And sometimes that can be a little difficult because on a spiritual path, we live our lives ethically, which means ensuring we do as little harm as possible. So many times we find ourselves in a workplace that is connected to more than just our little cubicle, more than just the work that we do on our computer, on this, just our small sphere of the workplace. And so it's hard to evaluate the consequences of our work. And so that can lead us to feel unsettled. We find ourselves unsettled. And because if we don't feel that we're contributing in a heart-centered type of business or helping humanity at the base of our essence, then a lot of times we feel unsettled because it doesn't feel like we're contributing. I know I went through that quite a bit right after my near-death experience. I felt this urge. I needed to be of service, more of service in the scheme of humanity. So what I was doing didn't feel like it was a part of what the universe wanted me to do, to contribute. And so I felt very unsettled for quite a while. And it took me a while to understand any means of livelihood today is knotted into a vast system that impacts lives and landscapes thousands of miles away. Think of it, if you're a butcher, you get your meats and you're packaging it up and you're putting it in the meat case and everything, but you're part of a bigger organization of the farmers, the cattle industry, and then the packaging, the bigger industries that bring the actual meat to the store. Then you have to start thinking about it like, well, I'm part of this bigger organization, and sometimes I don't feel like I have influence on the bigger scope of things. That's okay as long as what you're doing, because what we can do is we can affect, this is very kind of stoic in a lot of ways, is to focus on what it is that you have control over. Focus on what you can deal with, And Jenna, yes, there is a lot of outer noise out there, and that can be distracting as well. So keeping that focus, we're coming in with that intention, but then we're also there's so much more. Even when you think about it, like I'm a mailman, which seems pretty genuine type of role, very service related, but you're also part of a government institution. So, there's so much more, right? And but you can't identify yourself with all of that. You can only identify yourself with your small portion and make the best choices and bring that heart-centered humanity into your work roles. So, society at large also has a responsibility to be conscious of the consequences of its choices and its politics. I'm not going to get into politics here because that's not what I'm all about. But when we contribute in a societal type of environment, like I volunteer for an organization and I try to maintain kind of the middle road when I'm dealing with the board or I'm dealing with the councils and things that I serve on, then I try to maintain that sort of my integrity and my truth, and I try to bring that into those environments so that even if there are politics involved, which in any organization there's always a little bit of politicking, and so I try to maintain my integrity during the course of that, and hoping that infuses into the greater society, greater roles that we find ourselves in. So any activity requiring dishonesty or injury will annul the spiritual process. And this is something that, we have to take responsibility for what we're doing. And if we're in a position, and I know a lot of people that have had near-death experiences found themselves in this position, that they suddenly found themselves, they had this experience, they now are awake, and they see that what the work that they're doing is involved in maybe not the most ethical practices. And so they find themselves again, in a place of feeling unaware. And so they try to move on. I mean, there's nothing wrong with distancing yourself from a situation like that, and finding something that's more in tune with your essence. So this is just part of what of that this concept of right livelihood. So, Jen, I see you say you like to be the worker bee, but which actually sometimes is counterproductive. And I'm a worker bee. I do a lot of volunteer work, and so I find myself in organizations. I try to align myself with organizations that I feel are much more in tune with my essence, with what my higher consciousness is trying to guide me toward a way of living, so that I can be more heart-centered in all of my things. Because when we're working in a place that doesn't align with our higher truth, then that creates a lot of discord in us, and it knocks us off our own spiritual path and distracts us from what we really want to do. So I hope that you can give some thought to this and bring some intention and some loving, heart-centered essence of you into your work this week, and that you have a blessed and wonderful week. So, namaste.